Beardy and the Beast Media Club.
Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba. This is a placeholder intro song.
Thank you for joining us for the Beardy and the Beast Media Club, a full spoiler discussion into a beast of media. We have already put in motion your acceptance of those spoilers. If you enjoy what we do, please give us a like and a share, or join us at the discussion in the comments or at our Discord. My name is Drew, and F him and his palm frites, Devon. Today we'll be discussing 2009's crime drama, Law Abiding Citizen. So, Devon, was this masterfully constructed or was it a bomb?
Oh, I think it was decently constructed. Um, there are definitely some things that made me go, "What, really?"
Hmm.
But I think overall, I enjoyed the film.
Of course, this is one that I had seen previously, and knowing me, I had forgotten pretty much everything about it. So I got to experience it for the first time again. But there was a few pieces that were disharmonious to me.
All right.
It's like the acting was top notch, the script was really good, the special effects were fantastic, but it's almost like they weren't meshing together.
Yeah, there's something a bit off with it. I don't know. All right, I was just gonna start with a few of the things I saw that made me go, "This isn't quite meshing,"
Hmm.
and let's see if we can explore through this.
Okay.
So we've watched a few other quote unquote revenge type films
Yes.
now. So, I mean, they did kind of the same thing. They like, oh, he's a tinkerer, okay, and then you find out it's like, oh no, he is like the spookiest of spooks in just this throwaway scene, and I'm kind of like, yeah, don't think you needed that. Um, just being the tinkerer would have made sense, especially considering he waited like what 13 years to actually get any of said revenge.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, I guess to just kind of expand upon that, they could have replaced that whole spook part with them talking to some type of therapist, and that therapist saying like, "No, this is a deeply intelligent man, um, who I don't know what the exact line would be, but it would be something like, yeah, chess is to him like checkers would be for you, something like that."
yes, yeah. I think that would have fit a bit better. Um, I almost feel like that line was there to explain the military tech, which felt so out of place with everything else he was doing with the little drone and the machine gun and RPG.
I mean, given his intelligence and his know-how, he and his ability to like manipulate shipping records and things like that,
Yeah,
him obtaining that's not out of the question.
yeah,
I think he could get that equipment
yeah,
or even
um,
construct it.
yeah,
Well, maybe not the machine gun and RPG, but you know what I'm saying.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but you might be right. It might be just to help explain that military tech.
yeah. And then there was a couple of points that stood out to me as odd, and like they almost tried to explain it almost as I asked the question, but it never quite felt satisfying.
Hmm.
So, for example, they talk about having an accomplice. And then like, oh, the people that I figured could have been an accomplice somehow are like immediately killed off. I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's not that.
You thought it was
'Cause,
Sarah too, right?
yes, yes, 100%. I'm like, and like I had to go back and like, okay, well, technically Sarah was there before this trial, but he's also shown as a guy who has influence, and I totally thought it was Sarah, and I totally thought Chester
Yeah, Chester was,
was
yeah.
was him, and they just ruin it. And I even when it's like I didn't see a body.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Kind of like a Squid Game situation.
yeah. Uh, so there's that, and then it's just I I get his game plan, but I don't get his game plan. So, I mean, part of this is okay. Let's show how bad the legal system is, and I'm going. It's like, okay, so I'm going through my mind. It's like, well, what if he did try and got off, and they both got off? Would you be doing the same thing? And he kind of did throw in. It's like, oh no, because at least then you would have tried. But his targets aren't the right targets. What does it matter? The defense lawyer was doing his job. He tried. Why kill the defense lawyer? Why go and, try to napalm the city hall? What the heck did they have to do with any of this? Obvious attack, if you're going after the lawyer and trying to teach the lawyer a lesson, is actually go after his family somehow. Put that fear into him. But he
No,
never actually made an attempt there.
he wouldn't have.
It disconnected. Well, I know he wouldn't have necessarily gone off. No, you're right. It wouldn't have made sense for him to go after the family. It's just some of his targets
Well, it was all about
didn't
Nick
make sense.
Rice, about Jamie Foxx's character.
Yeah,
With all like the random like spook lines and all that, um, it could have used a little bit more hand holding, because the way that I see that is Gerard Butler's character Clyde. His only real target was Jamie Foxx's character Nick,
right,
to change the way that he thinks and the way that he applies justice, and
right.
then push him and elevate him into the position. And this is where I think it needed to be a little flushed out.
Okay,
The way that I see it is Gerard Butler's character was intentionally making Jamie Foxx's character the DA and changing what his sense of justice is.
okay, okay. That can make it fit a little bit better, because he did straight up say about the sense of justice aspect, like oh good, I've taught you well when it came to the not negotiating anymore near the end there. I didn't see the escalation to the DA part.
Well, what I think is they over-explained things that didn't need to be over-explained, and they didn't explain things that should have been explained further.
Yeah,
And I think that's that disharmonious thing. I think we've tracked it down.
yeah,
Because again, all the individual components were fantastic.
yes,
Like, I believe Gerard Butler and Jamie Foxx. I even believed Cole Meany,
yeah.
our nice little Starship
Ryan.
engineer.
Was he still a chief?
No, he was a detective. The only there was two things that bugged me that I couldn't put out.
Alright.
Why was Detective Garza, who was Detective Dunnigan's partner,
Mm.
why was he the bomb squad? And why were the lawyers performing the police investigations?
Oh, I was very much going, why is a counselor doing this?
Yeah, I
um
that bugged me more than anything else. I was like, I guess like he would have those skills
mm.
because he's got to be able to put together these cases and things.
Even then you throw on top of it, it's like, why isn't he recusing himself in the investigation? Clearly he's got a personal tie to it.
True.
Like there's a bunch of little things like and stuff like that. It definitely stood out to me that the counselor was doing the investigation. Um, and I can let the recuse part slip. I'll hand wave that part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
But
yeah,
like
it's
the
just
random detective like diffusing a bomb.
yeah, yeah. That was just weird. So okay. So why would you say he would have gone after the mayor and the defense lawyer then?
The defense lawyer?
Yeah.
I don't have a great reason, but I think it's his whole thing is like how broken the justice system is in such a way that this defense lawyer in a case that should be open shut made his like is making his career off of getting a murderer and rapist free.
Isn't that kind of contrary to when Clyde says at least you would have tried if he had went ahead with the charges instead of taking the deal?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean that's all the defense lawyer was doing. I mean he's clearly knowledgeable about the law, and this part really bothered me when when he's at the bail hearing
Mm.
and he successfully argues for bail and then immediately goes, "Are you crazy?" It's like, what is your actual sense of justice here? Like, innocent till proven guilty mean anything to you? Like, what? I mean, it's
Well, I mean, in the context of the movie, I think that was more about him him putting himself in a position that no one could argue that he should be free because they don't have any evidence. Um, I think that was all a show, so that he could be like imprisoned, so they could set his like master plan.
what was the need for the show? If you're trying to take this and going, it's like he's trying to show the holes in the legal system.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's a tenet that I think is a pretty good one to have. The innocent until proven guilty. They didn't have any evidence. They had strong suspicion, essentially. It makes it came across very show. I can see a lot of people taking a bad message from the film. If part of it's supposed to be a legal reform, that's getting rid of one of the core tenets of the legal system.
What's the thing? Like you can assume in that situation. I guess you would have to assume the only thing that could pin it all together is if you think about it as being a show and the puppeteering of Jamie Foxx's character as him as the center direction. So it doesn't have anything to do necessarily with the judge in that circumstance. You know what would make this all fit together so well for me?
Mm.
If the bomb was non-functional.
Yes, I actually kind of thought that too. Like,
Or like if it turned out and they said something like, "Oh, the bomb didn't actually have the power to take out the entire floor in the room above it," or
yeah,
it was, showy it might have started a small fire. Because
I actually meant to look that up. Continue.
it's just it's a weird circumstance where I think they had a cool idea and a great script writer and like top tier cast across the board, but then putting it all down on paper and like putting it together with those plot threads and those like cohesive things that stick it all together is where it fell apart. And this is why you have police detectives defusing a bomb, and for some reason the prosecutor is doing the criminal investigation himself.
It almost. I have to look into this because I'm not 100% certain, but I think a lot of legal systems outside of. I think I look at this right because most of the West uses common law. A lot of their places use civil law. It I feel like there are some places where basically you're guilty until proven innocent, and the lawyers do actually investigate as things come up. I want to say like the French civil law system is similar to that, but don't quote me on that.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause it's been a while since I've seen that.
Yeah, we definitely would not be the people to understand what legal expertise is.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like I am sure I've heard of legal systems where it was more like this film,
Mm.
which makes me now that we're talking about it, makes me wonder is like was the writer or something
Kurt Wimmer.
wrong? Yeah.
He wrote Equilibrium and Point Blank and the 2012 Total Recall. Ah,
I enjoyed Equilibrium. It was terrible, but I enjoyed it.
Gun Fu, man. I wish that had like stayed on.
Yeah. Ultraviolet was good for that too.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's similar staff tied to this. Anyway,
What
that's
is it?
beside the point.
Makes me wonder, like, I don't think they had any like consultants. So like legal consultants. You know how like, in House they you had a team of consultants and writers that were all like doctors and stuff.
Right.
I almost feel like they didn't have any legal consultants for this film.
Yeah. I definitely think that's part of it. I think, and you're right, because there's a lot of things that's right. Like I definitely got an almost, almost seven type feel from the way the film was.
Hmm.
Like there was definitely like the good cat and mouse aspect that was there. Just
I wish they
yeah,
played into that more.
Hmm.
What I had remembered about this movie is there was less of a gap. There was more of a gap between them being like, who's the accomplice, who's doing this on the outside, and that being a major plot thread. It was more of like a mention. Oh, he must have a accomplice on the outside doing all these things.
Yeah.
Because of how little they kind of emphasize that, it didn't feel like a big surprise when it turned out, oh, he actually like dug a tunnel under where. But again, they did misdirect quite well with them kind of pointing at Sarah, because she would appear in all those circumstances where it's like, oh, he's got an accomplice, and then they would be her in the next scene taking a phone call. We're talking
Mhm.
about a mysterious boyfriend. That misdirection was good. It's just so weird. Again, disharmonious.
Yeah. Um, Another question that was raised: would the whole lot have turned out the same? Would he have been as vengeful uh, if it was the other guy who turned on his partner in crime?
I don't. No, I don't think he would have been as vengeful,
Hmm.
because he. They even showed flashes from Clyde's point of view when he was on the ground,
Yeah.
and like it kept going back to the other guy who didn't actually do anything aside from like not help and
Yeah.
take a candlestick or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so Clyde knows everything that went on, knows that his wife was killed by the one that got away, and at least his daughter was taken into the other room, and they didn't specify what happened to her except that she died.
Yep.
Which allows your mind to go to like all the worst places. Um, I tell you what, though, I believe that anger, and like you could see it in his eyes, like specifically after Nick Rice was shaking hands with the guy who got off, shows Clyde in the distance, just looking, and you can see, and it's like the smallest tinge of going from just confusion and grief into just rage,
Yeah.
but it like this silent, cold. Mm, it set the tone for sure.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So, do you like the fact that it took him like 10 years to actually do any of this?
Doesn't bother me.
All right.
I feel it neither adds nor takes away.
'Cause for me, I'm going, it's like, why though? It seemed like a, and maybe it's just like comparing a lot of other, revenge type movies. It's taking that time to do it seemed odd to me. It's like, oh, what happens if like you spend all this time planning and just something happens to one of the guys and you never get any of it done? Or
Well, especially when his like the guy that killed his wife and daughter um is like in the drug trade, and obviously like in the like criminal underworld to some aspect,
yeah,
and doesn't seem to be high up in the ladder, so is very disposable.
yeah,
Like could easily something could have happened to them. I mean, I can suspend my disbelief for that just for setting the stage.
mm,
I mean, given his knowledge, I doubt it would take more than a year.
yeah,
Give him two, but 10 years after, eh, for it to kind of work, you gotta, for it to be about Nick, you have to allow him to go from being that like semi rookie to being that 10-year hardened guy.
I can kind of see that. I think so. I think of a couple of examples. So I think of Saw as an example of that when with Jigsaw playing with is it Wahlberg?
Oh, that's all I knew. I
Yeah.
haven't seen any of those.
Mm. But he does the same thing, like plays with a cop, and that's Jigsaw's thing. Oh, I'm gonna teach you how to love life properly, and
Hmm.
but it's generally not a again not a long wait. I almost felt like they did that. And I already mentioned this the idea of attacking the family.
Hmm.
It's like oh, it's almost like you're just waiting for the family to be closer to what Clyde's family was like, and like just a bit of
What's the thing? And you do see those moments where Nick understands Clyde's position, especially when talking about um, the wife and daughter.
yeah.
You know that he understood a little bit when he said, I'll end you if you come after, my family.
Mhm.
Or at the end, like specifically after he gave him the daddy bracelet.
That the bracelet actually is one thing that I thought could have been interesting. This could have been an actual good use of the kitty bracelet.
Oh, the last one was perfectly fine. Good sir.
Because he's a tinkerer and such like that. I almost expected there to be, like, so I didn't know about the holes and such. I almost expected there to be him do something to the bracelet
Mm.
that was giving him some sort of access. Just because, again, playing the mind games, kind of know that it's going to come back to him somehow. I almost thought that was something that was happening.
Those kind of like fleeting moments of understanding between the two. But I think Clyde, like Gerard Butler's character, is just off in his own world. Like he set these plans in motion, is not going to stop for anything, no matter
Yeah.
how far fetched the plans were.
Well, I did like that. I did like that he's like, technically Nick could have stopped at any time. Like, technically, all Nick, if at any point Nick didn't make a deal, almost the entirety of the plan would have been done.
See, I think they should have pushed more into that,
Mhm.
because I saw that a little bit too. Because it's all about the deal. It's all about the legal system cracking deals with like low life scum. In this case, a child murder. And I would have liked something at the end where he like just spells it out. There's like you could have stopped this entire thing if you just had not made a deal with me.
Yeah.
Don't make a deal with murderers.
Yep.
Because they were almost there, like, and they had that such a good implication. It makes me hard. It makes it hard to fault it, because the writing of the lines and the delivery of the lines were always so good.
Yeah.
Like it keeps you like held on here. So that whole like, uh, I don't make deals with murderers, and he's like, now you're beginning to get it, and like that delivery was just so good.
Yeah. But okay, so this goes back to that bit of mixed messaging, though. I'm saying that is there around his training, his training of Nick, as it were. It's the same thing as I said, where he's doing the bail hearing. Yeah, you're teaching him not to make deals, but in two, especially in two of the situations, making the deal, even though it let Clyde move his plan along, would have saved the defense lawyer's life and would have saved his entire team's life. So what are you actually doing here? Now it's like, no, you keep the deal
Mm-hmm.
because that's how you keep your team alive. I think that's where that mixed messaging comes in again. It's one of the things I thought that would have been just playing along that with the lawyer suffocating. I honestly expected it to be slightly different than what happened, because he gave GPS coordinates. I'm like, oh, what if he gives the GPS coordinates 8 minutes off? Not thinking it's a timer, just now it's harder for them to actually find him,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what causes a death, right? But yeah, it still plays with that mixed messaging of the film. What are you actually trying to teach him? If he didn't make these deals, or if he did make these deals properly, the team would have been alive. If you had him out at 6 a.m., not all of the cars would have blown up, or you actually had the food there on time, you would have had the lawyer alive. And they make it very clear to point that stuff out.
I mean, you can indicate that based on the implication that they, like the character stated, but it's not something that we can assume wholeheartedly is true. As in,
Okay?
they say they find the lawyer, and they say, "Oh, this is hooked up for a timer or whatever," and then they just make an assumption based on that. Had the food been on time, blah 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 blah.
It wasn't an assumption.
So the characters picked up an object and then spelled it out in vivid detail exactly why this person died within 30 seconds of arriving there.
No, because they showed the timer. If the food had arrived 10 minutes earlier, they would have gotten there 10 minutes earlier, and the timer wouldn't have run out.
Hmm.
Right? They were 8 minutes late.
Okay. Again, I'm not really all that worried about it. I'd like to expand into the characters and the delivery,
Yeah, all right.
and
Yeah,
not keep
let's
focusing on the
yeah.
things over and
Yeah,
over.
no,
and
it's
over.
all good.
I'm trying to move the conversation along.
Fine then.
I was very I was actually I shouldn't have been, um, but I was surprised at how comfortable I was with Colmini's acting because he was always like so goofy as O'Brien, and it when somebody has that kind of like very static, very long running character,
Mm,
it always kind of like pollutes your mind as to how they're going to be in the piece that you're watching.
mm,
But this is very different to what he was previously. The only thing that I can think of is I think he was some type of in Star Trek. He was some type of war vet or something. I remember he had a like a mean streak for some reason.
especially in DS9.
There was a darkness to him, and this kind of reminded me of that kind of feeling. As in, uh, when I first saw him, I was like, "Oh, it's O'Brien." Like this character is going to be kind of goofy or whatever. Nope, not even a tinge of it.
Yeah.
No detecting either, but that's a plot or a writing issue.
Yeah, why detect when the lawyer's going to do it for you?
I know, right?
I can definitely get that. I feel like I've seen him in a few other things where he was a bit more serious. So I didn't quite get that jump and just can't remember what it was I saw him in. But I think we've had similar discussions when we were watching. There's a couple other movies where we watched where we saw it's like, oh, it's this character, this actor, and them being able to act out of that preconceived notion.
Well, I mean, it works so well for comedians,
Mhm.
but it's always like it's very refreshing and pleasantly surprising
Yes.
when you have a preconceived notion about the character and it's like doesn't go into that at all.
Mhm. And most of the supporting casts were. I felt like a familiarity with some of the supporting cast, even though I can't actually place where they were, but never did it take over. Going, it's like,
Mm.
oh, it's this person, and I'm pretty sure I've seen Leslie Bibb, Sarah's character in something. I just didn't see anything immediately that jumped out at me when I glanced IMDb earlier.
She just like
Like,
she looks like that girl from House to me for some reason.
yeah, a bit of that.
But she's
Definitely wasn't House. I think most of the stuff was like some TV episodes. Oh, The Babysitter. She was in The Babysitter.
ah she was in The League with Jonathan
Mm,
Lejoie.
mm. I didn't watch so much of that.
Oh,
You showed me a little bit of it, but
first season was really good, and then I kind of fell out.
yeah.
All the deliveries, no matter how far fetched the situation, were just like spot on. I think the only character that I didn't believe per se was probably the mayor was kind of iffy to me. It was very over the top. She was very like, I'm the mayor in a late '80s movie, and I'm sending Sylvester Stallone to go be the bad cop at somebody. Um,
She really was.
yeah, the murderer guy
Yes.
wasn't great,
Hmm.
but
But
I
he
guess
didn't need to be. uh,
apparently originally they were gonna have Gerard Butler and Jamie Foxx's character switched. So like Jamie was gonna be the super smart like villain guy, but then someone suggested like history says that like Jamie suggested it's some says Gerard does, and then a production thing as well. But essentially everyone agreed it would be awesome. And then Jamie Foxx ended up being this lawyer, which like I think it suited well.
yeah, I think
I don't think I would have believed Gerard Butler as the lawyer, to be honest.
no, I don't think I would either. Jamie Foxx, I could go depending on his delivery. I could see going either way. No, they definitely made the right choice in swapping them. Just, yeah, Gerard Butler definitely played that kind of sociopath, that sociopathic focus on what he was doing so well.
He does a good like a quieter character with exposition.
Hmm. Yeah, I can't. It'd be very hard to picture this move the other way around. Hmm.
I don't know. Every time I see his face, I just remember him as Dracula from Dracula 2000, and I just like love that movie for some reason. And it's not like a Queen of the Dam situation where like the soundtrack is like peak awesome. just I really like.
It was so bad.
Come on, man. He was actually Judas the whole time.
The big scene that I remember from that, I think, is like the whole rice myth and just like instantly counting it.
That's badass.
Man, early 2000s movies were weird.
Highlander Endgame was trash.
Yes.
I'm throwing that out there. I'm just
Oh, big
Poop.
hot take there.
pooping on Highlander Endgame for no reason. That's what I do.
Oh, yeah, delivery wise though, like the mayor, that felt forced, but it felt forced from the story wise, which I think just ties back into the stuff that I've already beaten to death. um, like Sarah's character, believable, reaction seemed believable. Again,
Like she was
just
even
enough.
like Sarah's character at one point like straight up looked like she was just gonna quit. She was like,
Yes,
I need to move on from this.
yeah,
Which like brings you into that trope. It's like, I'm totally retiring next week.
yeah.
This is my last case. I both liked it and of course groaned a little bit from that. But then again, because like I didn't remember anything from this movie, so I totally thought they were faking her death because she was the accomplice,
Yeah.
and which I think I would have liked more.
hmm Yeah, and because like there's just so many little things that could have been obstructionist without being obstructionist.
Lots of little good could have beens.
Yes. Like they had Sarah and Nick actually had a bit of an interesting conversation, and it was something that I almost felt like it might have been like that missed plot line. We're talking about like, is it all worth it? I'm 36. Like I have dedicated my life to this. This is what it's going to be. It's kind of like they almost were throwing in that, maybe you don't need to be always in the work, because that parallels very much with Nick's obviously, like, seemingly starting to fall apart relationship with his wife. She was very angry at him. Um, Juxtaposed with Jared Butler, Adam's character, doing all of this because he was close with his family.
You know what?
It was always there. It's like,
Yeah, I would have liked to see a whole lot more of the various juxtapositions.
mhm,
Um, they should have just plainly made it more about Nick in general
mhm,
and all his interactions with everyone forming who he is as a character.
mhm,
So like exploring his relationship with his wife and juxtaposing it with what Sarah is doing with because she actually had various boyfriends.
yeah,
Like there is no Chester anymore was one of the things that
yeah,
saying things like that. Whereas there was tinges of it in the beginning and hesitation from Nick, but his interactions with Clyde should have been all about um him coming to grips with his dissatisfaction of the legal system.
mhm,
And then um with his mentor would be him coming into his own.
yes.
So this movie, I think in every way should have just been more about Nick.
Mm. And yeah, I actually almost thought it was going that way. Like I almost thought, like I almost could have saw something like, Clyde's getting Clyde's arrested and Nick kind of having similar feelings. Because again, they hinted at Nick having similar feelings,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, obviously cared about his prosecution rate, but there was some hesitation around that. He didn't feel good about the other guy getting off, or getting the lesser sentence. So there was a lot of that there, and I think that's why, unfortunately, because I made that seven connection. I
Mm-hmm.
think that actually could be a big difference, right? If you treat Nick more like Brad Pitt's character in Seven, where it was everything was centered around Brad Pitt's character
Yeah.
and his growth and his character arcs. It's Yeah, I think that would have strengthened it. I think it might have actually plugged some of the misgivings I have to the film.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so. There was that beautiful yet tragic scene of Nick's missed personal life versus his experienced work life between his daughter's recital and the execution.
Yes.
And I think thematically, the movie should have been more related to that juxtaposition, not family to life, but what Jamie Foxx's character is experiencing uh, compared to what the people is around him would be the best way to explain my previous point.
Yeah.
And
I agree, because I look at that scene like, okay, no, this is a really cool. It's a really cool juxtaposition.
yeah,
I can't wait to see a bit more of this throughout. But then you didn't.
yeah,
Like
and
in
it's
any way.
and I think that's kind of what I mean by like lots of little good could have beens. I mean, we both fundamentally disagree the whole like spook angle, though badass wasn't really needed and could have been a throwaway from a psych profile from like a here's where he applied for the FBI and here's his profile or whatever. Like they didn't even have to like leave the office to explain that away. I guess that's what it is. It's not actually got a focused thing that this movie is about. We got Gerard running around killing endlessly because of a broken legal system that he wants to take down. I don't know if it's headcanon or if it's the plot at this point that he was trying to reform Nick. You got like these little things about Nick where like he's a fully fledged character, but like what's this movie about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I guess that's what I mean. What's this movie about?
Yeah. Oh, that's exactly. I think it's why I got so focused on some of those weird inconsistencies at the beginning of the podcast too, because it's like I feel like this is what the movie wants to be about.
Yeah.
But you're not actually making it about that, or you're making it about that, but you don't understand what you're what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know we've talked about in other things where it's like, yeah, did you know what you were talking about? Or did you just think you knew what you were talking about? It's a 13-year-old's view of the legal system.
Which is funny because like when I'm sitting here and I fully well don't know much about the legal system except for the fact that in no way should the government be able to shut down a person's access to their own finances without involving the legal system.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't think you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the big thing with it, and it unfortunately permeates through.
Well, just goes back to probably no advisors.
Yeah.
I'm kind of holding on with they had a super cool idea and got great dialogue writers.
Yes.
And then just tried to piece it together.
Great scene direction, shots, all really good too.
How did you like the slow fire across the wall with the ambient music?
You know, I actually, so as a scene, I love, like as a shot, I absolutely loved it. I can definitely see that. Like looking up the director, he's done a lot of music videos.
Okay, yeah.
And you can tell. Like he's had films in between. It's like this wasn't his first or last film. It's kind of in the middle. But a lot of the stuff is music videos. So
Wait a sec. Are they making a live action Mask movie?
Yeah, I saw that.
Secret defenders working overtime, fighting crime, fighting crime.
He also did Fate of the Furious. Didn't send a
Which,
card to space, though.
which, yeah, which one's Fate? Is that 8?
Yeah. Yes, you can tell because it's Fate. See what they did there?
Fighting crime over time. I'm excited for this. But
So I loved that part of the ending. It was again one of those things that just jumped out at me. It's like, but how did they get there before him to plant the bomb when they were there after him when he left?
oh, they have access to helicopters.
Yeah, there's very much a needed to hand wave, and I just had to raise my suspension just that little bit higher.
No, honestly, that part didn't bug me at all. I saw that and I'm like, but how did they? And then I'm like, well, they've had several helicopter shots.
Yeah, as I said, it was a slight suspension of disbelief, but it worked for the shot. Kind of that poetic justice. I think there's another reason why that bothers me just in the placement of the film. Now that I think about it, there wasn't any again when I think of Seven. I think, as I'm remembering it, there's a little bit more of that cat and mouse. There's that little bit of, Brad Pitt's character does have the upper hand over Spacey's character, and you get that feeling a little bit more. Whereas I never had that feeling in this that Nick had the upper hand on Clyde. So I think even from a plot point, it kind of came out of nowhere because never was there anywhere where he seemed like he was closer to winning.
Well, the problem with that, to modify that statement, I guess you could say, is I agree, but I don't think it was supposed to be cat and mouse, which means it fails in a different way. They didn't portray the feeling that Nick was helpless. That this is a predestined thing, that he's out of his league and these events are going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
Unless he deals with this Clyde individual. They didn't portray that effectively. They didn't elevate it to the point that was expressed in the film. It's like, well, this can be that the spook said that, if you want to end this right now, you go in that cell and you put a bullet in his head.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably wouldn't have ended it because of how super smart Clyde is, but they didn't push it to that level. So that there was no rising tenseness like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this is where the smook, that's where we give a FBI agent a big old smooch. That's where the spook part comes out, actually hinders the film. Because it draws a line in the sand going like, no, this guy is so much more super smart than you. You can't do anything about what he's doing.
Yeah.
It takes away that option and hinders the film in that way, and also would hinder the film if it was about the cat and mouse game. Because it means that there's only cat, no mouse.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
No, that's I think that fits it a little better because it's like that. So so hashtag super smart Clyde is, but can't foresee them finding a property he purchased that gives away the whole thing, and it's like I feel like you should have had something.
Well, they did have to go through some back end legal loopholes to even get the information, and then I didn't have a problem with that because there was a whole process that was led up across the investigation to actually get to that point. It does come down to the unpaid parking ticket kind of situation. It's like, how do you catch a serial killer? Oh, because of unpaid parking tickets or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It gives you more of that feeling, which I appreciated. In fact, it probably would have given me glee if at one point they actually said that. How do you catch a serial killer?
Yeah, I get the following the money. That part makes sense. It's just kind of having
what is this movie
there
about?
yeah, it's like have something there, or again, yeah, you just need to elevate. Again, you need to make it more about Nick. You need to show how he's getting closer and just missing things or something. Have that build up more because he's always on the. He's very clearly always 2 steps behind, and the only time we feel like he's not is at the instant point where it makes the difference.
Well, it's the thing. It does. They don't even make him feel like he's 2 steps behind. They make him feel like he's 5 steps behind.
Mm-hmm.
And Clyde is running while Nick's still walking. Like that's
Yeah.
how they make you feel. A lack of cohesion that would have been structured better with better plot and at least a 14-year-old's understanding of the legal system. Which is like it's such a shame. Like this movie is carried so well by a great concept and great acting.
Yeah.
You don't even really realize any dissatisfaction you have with the film until it's over.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
And you go like, hashtag what is this movie about?
Yeah. Honestly, it's like a lot of the things, like, because I did the same thing. It's like as we said, I raised the suspension of disbelief that Liberal did, and it's like, okay, yeah, whatever, for the most part. And it's afterwards, I'm like, but why, Dale?
Mm.
Again, it's not like it's a film where it's just jangling the keys. Is that there's clearly that structure there. It's just, yeah, a 14-year-old's understanding of the legal system and make it a little bit more about Nick.
Yeah, I would
Probably would have made all the difference.
if they ever remake this film, just like straight about Nick, like less scenes with Clyde altogether.
Mhm.
Except when juxtaposing it against like his discontent with the legal system and his personal gripes professionally.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that would have made such an interesting way to look at it.
yeah,
Sorry, I cut you off.
like he does a thing because this is how he thinks the system works and how he thinks he's effective, but he doesn't like the fact that it's not really justice that's being given because
Yeah.
they are making deals with murderers. So that juxtaposition where like they did it decent with Sarah and his wife.
hmm
Like her grips with like her life path, a lack of family and her direction and his like disconnect his family's discontent with his position. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like because there'd be such an interesting. You'd give such better. You'd give such better attention to the character in the film overall if you have Nick knowing he has to deal with Clyde, has to make these deals with Clyde to move things along, but be opposed. But like he's opposed to it. But what are you supposed to do? You need to save this lawyer's life. You need to. You need to get this information.
Well, and they should have, and like to add to that, like they should have shown the out at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's like even if it was a line like those people would have survived if you didn't make the deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Like
the way that they yeah. Ah, it's so funny. Like we talk so negatively about the film, but it's like I actually you know what I truly enjoyed this film. Except for like the sawing off the leg part, which is not like I'm not cool with that kind of gore.
Mm.
Um this righteous cold rage that he was feeling was expressed well in that.
Yes.
Especially like with the mirror and the little picture of his family on the mirror.
Yeah.
But like the actual song, I'm not like that's super cool with gore. My I'm more of a thriller guy than a horror guy. I like or rather than a gore guy. I like a film that makes you question how far you could go as a human.
Mm-hmm.
Um and pushes that envelope, makes you feel really uncomfortable in that way. That's like that thriller horror kind of feeling. It's mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I feel effed up for like an entire week. I mean, I guess saying all that, I would say in a court of law, I'd see 8 of 12 jurors indicating not guilty.
Yeah, despite everything I said with it, it was definitely enjoyable. Like, it wasn't plot holes or anything like that. Like, the story in and of itself is fairly consistent. I'd probably say 7.
Hmm.
Still a hung jury, but
Feels like a one-way bridge.
Hmm.
It works,
yeah,
but it's definitely not the most effective when you have two highways that feed into it.
yeah.
No, this movie is hard carried.
Yeah.
The music, sound design, special effects, definitely the acting, and the dialogue writing. It's kind of like making a kitchen chair with 3 legs.
It works.
Yeah, it works, but
Yeah, it is. Yeah, like I feel like a lot of the movies we've talked about, where it's like that. You're so close.
Oh, it was so close too. Well, I said when I suggested this movie, like, I didn't even know if I liked it or not.
Mm,
Just that I saw it, and it
fair
had
enough.
a tone to it.
Yeah, it definitely has a tone to it.
There is
That was one
one
thing.
Oh, there was
Right.
one line that I really liked. It's where he indicated that the legal system was a diseased, corrupt temple, and that it's going to be biblical.
Mm,
It was an out of place line because there was no real other structure with that kind of symbolism in it.
yeah,
But it was a cool line.
that was a cool line. I also appreciate how the car wasn't bulletproof. So many times it's like, oh, we'll just hide behind a door. No, you won't.
Well, especially
Maybe you'll
like,
hide behind the engine block.
well, that was also like seemed to be a fairly high caliber weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. It's just like a whole lot of like, not in an action movie sense, but in a crime drama sense, where it's like, guys know what would be cool? Like if they put the bomb in the cell and it's solitary and all the machinations just came to a T, but in reverse against our. Is he a hero? Is he not? You don't know.
I'm just upset that people won't see the visual of you were doing as you said that.
I was head bobbing and hand gesturing. It's, you know what, they saw it. They closed their eyes and they knew
Yeah.
exactly what I was doing. There's only one set of movements that can accompany what I said and how I said it.
That is fair.
They won't see my goofy hair though. Alright, I'm ending it. Do you have anything to say? Do you have anything to say for yourself, sir?
I think I'm good.
Good. Because I don't make deals with murderers. With that, this has been Beardy and the Beast Media Club. Join us next time where we discuss the film Perfect Blue. As always, if you like what we do, please like, subscribe, or join the discussion in the comments or at our Discord. Later.